Hello, everyone. As you're coming in, I want to welcome you to Job Club today. We're very excited to have you here. While we're waiting for others to join us, please type in the chat box where you're located and what type of work that you're seeking. And also in the chat box, look at that icon and make sure you toggle the to everyone in case you have questions. We want to be able to see your questions. We'll get started in just a second. All right, again, everyone, as people are coming in, we want to welcome you to our Job Club today. Please let us know in the chat box where you are coming from, where you're located, and what type of work that you might be seeking so we can keep our eyes and ears open for you. And make sure you look at the chat box, the icon there, and toggle the to everyone so everyone can see what you put in the chat box this morning. We'll get started in just a second. I'm seeing a lot of people type in the chat box already where they're located, maybe the type of industry that they're looking for. So glad to keep that coming. We want to see that. We want to be active in that chat box. So again, welcome everyone to Job Club. We are thrilled to have you here. We have a wonderful presentation set up for you with our wonderful presenter today. So as you're coming in, please let us know in the chat box where you're located, the type of work you might be seeking, what industries you're interested in. We'd love to know that from you as well. So again, welcome everyone. We'll get started. So next slide, please. And we're thrilled to have you here for a wonderful presentation today. Keep that chat box flowing. We love to see where you're coming from. Make sure that you do locate that icon in the chat box, the to everyone, so we can see your questions, your comments. We want to keep that chat box flowing. We do have a chat box moderator here today. So again, we want to welcome from you. Our agenda today is we're going to maybe hear some success stories that you've had since you've last joined us or since the last time you've been here. We'd love to hear those success stories. We'll introduce our main speaker here. We'll also get an update with our UK Steps partner, Nicole, and talk about our next time at Job Club, what's coming up for you. Our mission at Job Club is to provide a positive environment for job seekers to network and learn best practices for the job search. We meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of each semester month, and you can find the scheduled topics at ukalumni.net/job club. We have a lot of great presentations lined up for you this fall semester, so please make sure you check that out. We'd love to have you here. I want to welcome our Job Club facilitators. My name is Amy Gamblin. I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Career Services. I'm joined by Caroline Francis, who's the Director of Alumni Career Services, as well as Nicole Waite, our Employment Specialist at UK Steps, Temporary Employment. And behind the scenes, we have Mason Maybourne from the UK Alumni Association. So the Job Club wouldn't go on without these fabulous facilitators and coordination. So we appreciate everyone being involved here in the work that you do. All right, so if you are a first timer to Job Club, let us know in the chat box. This is my first time. If you are a first timer, we are thrilled to have you here. Join us and don't let this be your last time because again, we have a lot of great presentations for you in store. But if you are a first timer, see some first timers coming in. Congratulations for being here. We welcome you and hope we get a lot out of this presentation today. Let us know your career interests, what you're looking for. We'd love to take note of that as well. So a couple of items to take note of. Some attendees here may be conducting a confidential job search, so we do want to be protective and respectful of their privacy for the job search. So if you see a name in there, just reminder to be respectful and protect the confidentiality of that person who maybe that you know that's joining us today. So just keeping that in mind. Job Club is hosted in an online format here at Zoom. So we're virtual only. And so we welcome those who joined via Zoom here. There is a chat box moderator. So we'll be monitoring that chat box. If you have a question while the presentation is going on, please do put that in the chat box. We'll have time for Q&A at the end, or maybe sprinkled throughout the conversation. So make sure again that you have that icon to 2 in that chat box so that we do see your questions. Also a reminder that each of our Job Club presentations are recorded and downloaded at our YouTube channel, which is ukalumni.net/Job Club recordings. So maybe if you have to jump off early, or maybe there's a presentation that you missed in a Job Club date and you really wanted to attend, please do check out our YouTube channel. There's great presentations there available for you to look at your convenience. So wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that we do record and it is on our YouTube recordings there. So you can also check out some free resources that we have on our website where you can find some career webinars that are also recorded there, some training topics. And so that information is in your chat box where to find that link. So lots of great resources there available for you. We also highly recommend that you join our Job Club LinkedIn community group. So there we have a lot of opportunities that we post, job opportunities that are available. We're posting there. Some employers also are posting there. And we have articles that we post that might be interesting to you. So please do join our LinkedIn groups called Job Club of Kentucky Sharing Community. Lots of valuable resources there. So check that out ever so often. That's available for you. Now we do have a lot of great upcoming events to make note of. Those will be in your chat box. A reminder, if you are interested in attending Commerce Lexington Business Link, it's also a great way to network, to meet people. It is on October 7th. If you are interested in that, email Caroline Francis. Her email is in your chat box, and she'll be able to put you on the guest list for free. So keeping a note of that. For those of you who are local, we have our Job Club Lunch Bunch. We had our first one last week. So this is an in-person opportunity for you to come together, to meet people, to network. We have highlighted employers that come each time. Our next one will be October 21st. And so we have Hannah Resources Group representatives coming for that one. Again, it's a great way to meet people, just to ask questions. It's a very laid back, very confidential as well atmosphere. So please make note of that. We also will have our first Ask a Career Coach Zoom webinar, and that will be October 7th from noon to 1. Again, another opportunity for you to just be in a comfortable space to meet people, to ask whatever career-related job search questions that you might have. Caroline and I will be there helping you through that process, answering your questions. So it's a great opportunity. We also have a lot of other events that you can see in the chat box. So please just make note of that. We have all of this listed on our website that you can check those out, plan ahead dates if there's something that interests you. Sometimes space is limited, so make sure that you sign up for those, whatever interests you. We'd love for you to be there. Another one, and I'll put this in the chat, Commonwealth of Kentucky's virtual, let me copy this and put that in the chat. There is. They have a monthly virtual job fair, and the next one will be Wednesday, October 15th. And this one focuses on people who are looking for manufacturing or logistics positions. So there's the link there that you can go in and look at if you are interested in attending. Next slide, please. All right, so who here, we have a lot of people here, who here has a win or success story that they'd like to share? Please put that in the chat. It could be that you've had an interview, you've updated your resume, you've had an informational coffee chat with someone. We'd love to celebrate whatever wins and successes that you've had. So if you've had a success story, either put that in the chat or let us know, email us. We'd love to celebrate with you whatever successes that you are having, and so we can share with others as well. Now, employers and recruiters are always welcome at Job Club, and they're able to, again, look to provide us opportunities, job opportunities that they may have. You can post those in the chat box here. You can join our, again, Job Club sharing community on LinkedIn, post those opportunities there, or submit a Job Club or Job Lead form at the link there, ukalumni.net/new job lead. So if there are opportunities that you want to get out, make sure that you share that with us. We'll post that on LinkedIn for you. So attendees here, again, a great way that great incentive for you to join the LinkedIn page so you can check out those opportunities for yourself. We have a lot of great employers who are posting those opportunities for you. So make sure you continually make that part of your job search to check those opportunities out. All right, so we are thrilled to have our guest speaker here today, Louise Kersmark, who is the president of Best Impression Career Services. We are so excited to have her here, that she's got a wonderful presentation coming up for you, so I hope you enjoy. Louise is the author or co-author of more than 20 career-related books. She's the one, people, check her out, her books out, including most recently, Modernize Your Resume, and other titles from Emerald Career Publishing. She's a co-founder and former executive director of Career Thought Leaders and Resume Writing Academy, and is a frequent trainer and presenter to both job seekers and career professionals. In her private practice, she specializes in working with senior executives and often their college graduating children. Understand that. Among her favorite things in life are traveling, biking, visiting baseball stadiums around the country, and speaking to professional groups. She resides in the Boston area. And we, so again, welcome you, Louise. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to your presentation today.
Thank you, Amy. It is great to be here. I spent 11 lovely years living in Cincinnati, so I'm very familiar with your part of the country. And it's nice to visit you virtually, if not in person. Okay, so I'm looking to advance my slide, and it is not advancing. There we go. Okay. So today we're going to talk about some fairly quick ways to improve your resume, to go from good to great, perhaps, to fine-tune things you've probably spent a lot of time working on, but maybe you haven't looked at through the lens of a resume writer like me or a hiring authority. So we'll take a look at some typical challenges that I see when looking at resumes, and then some ways that you can address them. Okay, so what is the purpose and the goal of your resume? A couple of different things. First of all, you want to make that first date impression. What does that mean? That means you are immediately attractive to your target. You share some common interests, and they are eager to learn more about you. It is not intended as a warts and all, everything about you on the table, take it or leave it. It's like, here's a little bit about me. Here's how we might have some things in common. Let's get together and continue our conversations. Also, it's designed to open doors to opportunities, and that's not just interviews. Of course, your goal is the interview and the job. However, networking meetings, referrals, talking to and getting to know people who can recommend you, who can do favors for you, who can give you their advice is a really great strategy for job seekers. So I highly recommend that you have meetings and conversations that are not directly related to a job interview, because you never know where one is going to come from. Bottom line, your resume should make you look like an ideal candidate for your dream job. That's the lens that I always keep in mind when I'm writing for my clients. What is your dream job, and how can I make you look like the perfect candidate? When we do that, when we write our resumes, we have to, we think of it as it's about me, the job seeker, but really it's about you as the employer wants to see you, what they're looking for in what you have. So you want to show them you have what they're looking for and give them the opportunity to invite you in for the interview. So here's how we're going to go about looking at the different challenges that we have. So we're going to identify 6 areas where many resumes fall short, and I'm going to give you some ideas and lots of examples to help you look at your own resume and maybe get some new ways, new ideas for how to do things differently and more effectively. Someone in the chat says we need our resume to get past AI, and I do want to address that right up front because AI is a factor. AI devices and tools and software are screening your resume. They're looking for keywords, but I can assure you that in most cases, your resume will be viewed by humans. So even if it's scanned by AI, and in many cases, recruiters and employers tell me that they look at every resume. So I'm going to give you some ways to make your resume attractive to humans, and at the same time, it will be attractive if you're writing it for the job that you're applying for. So we'll talk about that. But I don't want you to obsess and fret over AI because it is not the be all and end all. And secret inside tip, if you use your contacts, get referrals, get direct access to hiring managers, AI becomes much less of a factor. And that is a really smart job search strategy, and it has been forever. So it's nothing really that new. We have a lot more applicants, a lot more people can apply, instant apply. And so a lot of more resumes are coming in. So the more you can do to get that side door introduction, the better off you're going to be in your job search. Okay, let's get back to the point here. Lack of focus, no clear objective. Employers are looking at this resume, and here's what they want to know. Who are you? Where and how do you fit into my organization? Once again, it's not about you. It's about how you can help them, how you can relate to their needs in their organization. Does your experience match my needs and expectations? Is your career story consistent and relevant? In other words, are there any red flags? Are there things that I'm concerned about? Or is it full of stuff that I just don't care about because it's not relevant to my needs and my expectations? So that's what the employer wants to know. So here's a fix. And if you're not doing this, something you can do quickly on your resume. Number 1 is replace the heading summary or profile or whatever else you might have up there with a headline that announces who you are. And that means your job title or job titles, functional areas that you work in, maybe industries that you work in. You want to hit them over the head with how obvious you're being about who you are and where you fit in. You might also consider adding subheadings to further define who you are, your identity. That would include maybe some of those functional areas or industries, brand attributes, what you're known for, maybe some past companies, big names that you've worked for, because you want to give them a quick overview, a quick glance of how you fit in and who you are, because you want them to be thinking about you in that context as they're reading the rest of the content of your resume. And if you don't give them that immediate impression, they're going to perhaps read the resume, but they're not going to have a clear concept of who you are. And they're going to then not absorb all the information in a way that's relevant to you and to them. So they're going to, if they're inclined, you're going to have to go back and reread once they figure out who you are and where you might fit in. And to be honest, they don't have that kind of time or that kind of patience. So you want to give them information that immediately tells them who you are and where you fit in. You want to create clarity and frame the content within those roles and those areas. I'm going to give you a bunch of examples now of that summary section, that top part of the resume. I will also say many of these might have a skills list that comes after it. And if you're including that on your resume, that's great. I don't object to that at all, but I haven't included them in the samples. Okay, so here we have graduate nurse. No mystery. We know exactly who this person is. Targeting 3 different areas that she's looking at. newly qualified nurse, eager to begin professional career, additional value, been a nurse's aide for the last 3 years before going back to school to get well, actually, this is an old sample. So she's only been 2 years as a nurse's aide since she was 2 years since she was a nurse's aide. And what she does, where she's worked, oncology unit, above and beyond assistance. So it's really tight, really, really concise, and it immediately tells the person reading it who she is and where she wants to be in that organization. So it's helpful information. Next example, also a graduating student. Help desk support technician, resourceful, solution-driven IT professional. Here's what I'm good at. Here's how I can help you. In 2 lines, there's a lot of valuable data in this introduction. A bit longer here, we have an administrative professional with specific experience with these kinds of companies, Fortune 500, healthcare, etc. And then 3 bullet points that talk about what this person is really good at and how he or she has helped the organizations where they've worked, right? Resourceful problem solver, often completing tasks before you even know they're needed. So that's an unusual wording, which I think will capture attention because it immediately speaks to the need and the value that she brings, or he. Another example, data scientist. Once again, very, very concise. Director of data science, causal inference, and healthcare analytics. And I honestly have no idea what those even mean. I did not write this resume, so I didn't question the person the job seeker. But I'm sure for the jobs they're looking for, those words would have a lot of meaning. And then just 2 lines about what they bring, combining great storytelling with the technical tools of my trade, machine learning, algorithm, AI modeling. And here's the outcome of that. So if you can think of a crisp couple of liners that talk about what you do well, that will make your profile section stand out in a way that's meaningful to readers, and it's not going to be the repetitive kind of language that we often see, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Another example for a sales professional. Senior sales professional, these different kinds of areas I'm good at. Business to consumer, team leadership, strategic marketing. Then we have 2 bullet points that are specific achievements, really tight one-liners that are impressive, and followed by a quote from the general manager of the place where this person worked. So we have, once again, very short, concise 3 lines that are unique to this individual. Nobody else can have that content, and that prove the value of this person in a sales role. And one more example here for an executive, sales and business development exec, highly technical products and integrated solutions. So we're zooming in on the areas that this person wants to work in and where they have experience. Growth catalyst with a history of delivering results for companies in technically sophisticated industries, and then 4 bullet points with numbers bolded to talk about specific achievements. Now, if you're including achievements in your summary in this way, which I think is a great idea, typically this is a one-liner, and down in the experience section, you're going to have a little bit more explanation about that same achievement so that the person can read more about it. But these are just the hit them over the head, give them the quick news, the quick hits, the quick dopamine surge from reading about all the great results that you've delivered. So don't think of these as replacing what's in your experience section, but rewording and just highlighting. Okay, let's go on to problem number 2. And this relates to problem number 1, but generic summary, an introduction or summary section that does not distinguish you from every other person who has any kind of similar experience. Language typically is bland and general, and the presentation is often not inviting. And I've been reading a lot of comments of people who submit their content to AI and ask them to write a summary for it. For example, if you ask ChatGPT to write a summary for your resume, you're going to get a lot of generic content because the ChatGPT and the others do not know you and your stories. They are extrapolating data and content from everything that's available on the web to write something that's going to sound good and might even sound like you, but is not going to be distinct and unique. So think about that. I recommend using AI to help maybe edit and to help get some new ideas for things, but make sure that you're including you in your resume. Okay, so here is, oh, I think I skipped one. Or maybe I didn't. Okay. So some ideas to differentiate your intro. A lot of these are similar to what I showed you in that first section when we were talking about that headline and making that instant impact, but a few more examples of different ways that you can do that. So in this case, the example, this fix is to list specifics rather than generalities, right? So this person, one line about kind of an overview, 15 years of success doing this, that, and the other thing, you know, where she wants to work in philanthropy, and then 3 bullet points relate to specific things that she's done: built a top performing program, pioneered new programs, created the culture of philanthropy. Specific, not general. Another idea would be to use unique language. Remember, if you go to ChatGPT, you're going to get a lot of standard language because that's what most people use. That's what they're extrapolating from. Why not come up with some language that is distinctive and interesting to read? In this case, instrumental in building some of TV's most recognizable brands, a big idea generator, bold concepts, buzzworthy initiatives. So think about ways to say things that are not bland and boilerplate. Another example, avoid any kind of paragraphs and just give people one-liners that they can skim very quickly and that highlight 3, 4, or 5 things that you want them to recognize about you. And you can see this is all done in one line. The bottom line with the graphic is just for visual interest. You could do those 3 items without, without the color and the arrows, but I think it looks pretty, so I like it. But you could do it either way. So that would make this a 4-line intro as opposed to, 3 plus the graphic. Oh, someone's asking about name and phone number. That would go above your name, your contact information, but basically email, phone, maybe your LinkedIn address. That is all above this headline section, this summary section. And someone says, do you have examples of good summaries? Yes, I'm sharing a lot of them with you. So your own will reflect you, but these might give you some ideas for how to select and arrange the information that you have. Another idea would be to get right to the point. As you can see, this is an aspiring engineer, a new graduate, senior Northeastern student pursuing full-time employment immediately upon graduation, which is coming right up in 2023. And then 3 bullet points, each one line: academics, internships, intangibles. Very, very skimmable. And unique to her in this case, because not everyone will have those same academic results. Not everyone will have had those specific internships. And are those intangibles perhaps more generic? In other words, other people could have them. Yes, but she has stories to tell about how positivity has affected her in her internships and on the job, and how she's worked in different countries with people from different cultures. So she's able to support that. Okay, another idea. Include personal attributes. Now, once again, the resume is not necessarily about you. It's about you as it relates to the employer's needs. But if you can include some language that shows the attributes that you bring that let you make a difference on the job, that can be an effective technique. And once again, our goal is to avoid bland, generic language. So this person is a determined enthusiast, known for commanding knowledge of technology and engaging personality, and he's friendly, which I think is a really fun word to use in this particular case. Focused, friendly, and committed to safety. That is a really good brand statement for a pilot, I think. Okay. Before I go on to number 3, do we have any other questions? I will pause for a moment to see if there are any questions about the headline, the summary section, that very first top part of your resume. I don't see any other questions in there, but if any have come up, you can interrupt me and ask them. Okay, let's go on to problem number 3. Irrelevant content. You can't be everything to everyone. You can't be an ideal candidate for your dream job and every other job in the world as well, because some things are more important for some jobs and less important for other jobs. So you need to write your resume for your dream job. What is your number one target? What do you really want to do? Now, in a real world, you're going to also look at jobs that are adjacent to that. In most cases, you should have a fairly tight target. If you're trying to, I just want to find out what's out there, I just want to see where I can qualify, that's not a good strategy, because employers are not looking at resumes and thinking, gee, where might this person fit into my organization? No, they want to know that, because they're not concerned about you, they're concerned about you as you relate to their needs in the organization. So write your resume for what you really want to do, and then think about how to adapt it or expand it for related jobs that will make you look like a great candidate for several in the same category. And then every time you apply, look at your resume, look at the posting, and make sure there's a good match. And you can usually make minor changes to content, maybe change a few of the keywords to get a better match. You should not have to rewrite your resume for every job, but you should take a few minutes to look at it, compare it to the job posting, and see if it's a good match, or can you adapt it minorly to make it a good match. When we adapt our resume, we have to think about what's relevant for that audience, and oftentimes eliminate things that are not relevant, even if we've done them, and even if we would be happy to do those kinds of things again. If they're not relevant for the jobs that we're targeting, then they don't need to go into the document. Okay, so the fix is to screen your content for relevance. Okay, what goes in? Achievements, experience, and activities that relate to your target job. So you know what the job you're going for, you know what's relevant in that job, put that stuff in that relates to it. Anything else comes out. Well, that sounds kind of drastic, right? But I encourage you to use a broad lens, not a narrow lens, because include items that show fundamental and relevant skills, even if they were used in a different field. That doesn't diminish or negate the value of those skills. So make sure that you're looking at skills, for example, from a broad viewpoint. Sometimes also with that broad viewpoint, material that shows desirable character traits. Once again, even if it was done in a different environment, you can show attention to detail, persistence, good customer service skills, and those will be important in your target job, then by all means include them. And always use language that includes you into your target job or your target industry and doesn't filter you out. So let's look at some examples on how to do that. Making content relevant. If you're looking for a job in the same industry, it's great to say grew revenue nearly 5 times in 4 years, selling pressure pumping services to oil companies worldwide. The problem is, if you're looking to sell different services to different kinds of companies, that kind of bullet point can filter you out. So think about how to say it in a way that is just as meaningful, just as valuable, but is going to appeal to a broader audience. In this case, transformed unprofitable market tailing product line to #1 in market share, growing revenue nearly 5 times in 4 years. So we've made it applicable to any industry or many different industries, and not just the oil industry. Another example. Let's say you want another job as a math teacher. You've been a math teacher, and your bullet point says you reimagined the after-school programs to better reflect student interest, recruited 20 faculty, generated buzz that led to 40% surge in student participation. That sounds really great. If you're looking for a job as a financial advisor, as my client was in this case, let's think about how we can tell that in a way that's relevant to the audience of someone who will have to create programs, right? Delivered 40% surge in program participation. Here's how we did it. Customer interests, not student interests. 20 new high energy program leaders, not faculty. Word of mouth marketing, record results, etc. So think about the language that you're using and make it relevant to your audience and not narrowly exclusive, unless you're staying in the same industry, in which case you want to look like a real insider. Okay, problem number 4, boring job descriptions. Job descriptions will not differentiate you because everyone with the same job could have the same content on the resume. If you write a long job description, you're taking up valuable space that you could use for more unique and specific content related to you. Often they're overly detailed, they're very dense, they're going to put your readers to sleep. We do not want to do that. We want to keep them interested. So what do we do about it? First of all, we want to put readers in the picture. We want to let them know what kind of job we held, a rough idea of the scope of the job. Do you have to list all of your job responsibilities for jobs with very well-known titles and a good understanding in the world of what a person does in that job? No, I don't think you do. But I do love to include context. What were you hired to do? What was the problem that you were asked to solve? What was the big picture view of that job? And that way, when you talk about achievements, they're going to have meaning within that context. So that to me is one of my top approaches when I'm writing a resume is what was going on and what did you do about it? So think about that with all of your jobs, and then you should be able to come up with bullet points that are specific and that also will illuminate some of those job duties, job details that you don't want to bore your readers with in a job description. Okay, so here's an example. Premier Account Representative. Here's the job description. Responsible for managing the rollout of a new inventory management system, oversaw details of implementation, testing, and launch, problem solved to resolve issues, represented company in meetings with customer senior executives, trained users, worked closely with customer. So this is a description of a job managing the rollout of the new inventory management system. Okay, not interesting. So let's look at how we might write about this same activity in a way that we are providing context and then framing those activities in the form of achievements. Brought on board to introduce new inventory management system to the company's #1 distributor, a national account representing millions of dollars in annual sales volume. That to me is a good context paragraph. Here's what I was hired to do. This was the big challenge. And with those details, #1 distributor, millions of dollars, we can understand the importance of this role. So if this person did not do a good job, the company would be very unhappy. And then bullet points that talk about completed the rollout on schedule, delivered extensive end user training, built exceptional account relationships. So these are bullet points, as you'll notice, that do not have specific measurable results except for the on schedule rollout. Not all of your bullet points are going to be saved, millions of dollars and cut expenses X number of percent. We don't always have those kinds of achievements, and we don't have all of those kinds of achievements for every job. Still, we can write bullet points that integrate keywords for the types of jobs we want to do and are written in such a way that they convey accomplishment, even if they're not a specific and measurable result. So be thinking about that. Problem number 5, achievement-like bullet points. I see these all the time in pretty much every resume that I look at. They're written as achievements, but really describe activities. They're not differentiating, and they don't convey any value that you deliver. So how do we fix it? First of all, rewrite them as achievements. Describe specific things you accomplished wherever possible, whenever possible. Include outcomes, measurable results. Some people think that they have to describe in general terms to cover a lot of ground and to get the message across that they do this all the time, but you really don't. If you can describe one specific thing that you accomplished, employers will extrapolate from that you could do that again in different environments or different circumstances, and that would be, they understand that you know how to use that skill, how to do that job. Oops, I'm moving ahead here. Include language and details that convey the scope of the job, the challenge, the technology, etc., because you want to make sure that they do understand the extent of your role. But think about the achievement and not necessarily just the activity. Okay, here's an example. Achievement like bullet points. As a membership advisor, I sell premium fitness services. I provide tours and answer questions. I follow up on leads. Oh, I exceeded first year sales goal by 27%. So we do have an accomplishment here, but it's kind of hidden. There's a lot of text here, not a lot standing out. Created a new lead pipeline. So for someone, particularly in sales, do you want to jump off the page with your sales successes if you have them? Because people are looking for numbers and results in this particular function. You've got to have the sales results. So let's see what it looks like afterwards. All right, rewritten as achievements. So we have a brief three-liner, introduce prospective members to the company. This is the job description. This is the one that could be boring. It's short. It's not going to take up a lot of space or time. And then we have bullet points that are going to highlight specifics. Consistently superior sales results. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that are proof of consistently superior sales results. And notice the bolding for the numbers. And then a couple of more bullet points that talk about lead generation and operational processes. So more about that, more detail. But what's really important in this one is here are the numbers. Here are the results that I delivered in sales in a way that you can't miss them. Here's another example. Oops, I don't know why it keeps, okay, here we go. Achievement like bullet points. Accountant, responsible for full scope of accounting and tax prep, identify and implement ways to make the business run more smoothly, improved efficiency, filled in for a senior accountant. That sounds pretty good, right? We have some accomplishments, but it's not specific. It's quite general. Improved efficiency, what does that mean, right? So we don't really understand the context and we don't really understand the value that this person delivered. So let's take a look at the after version. Advanced rapidly from handling simple tax returns to managing complex accounting for major clients. That's the job description, if you will, the context. This describes an overview of the job. And then 3 bullet points: delivered seamless service to key accounts during unexpected 4-month absence of senior manager, stepped in virtually without notice, etc. Right? That makes that so much more meaningful than the prior, the first draft of that accomplishment. Saved $10,000 in labor costs. Okay. Implemented advanced Excel functions to cut processing time 25%. So we're able to quantify. If you're using numbers in your resume, you're looking for numbers, I would say if you don't have exact numbers, choose a number that you are absolutely confident you at least accomplished, if not more. Don't be tempted to exaggerate, because when you get into an interview and they ask you questions about that, you don't want to be on the defensive. You don't want to have to defend yourself. If you're fully confident that there was 25% or more processing time cut, then you can use that number, but don't be tempted to exaggerate that. Someone says, what's a good resource when you don't have measurables achievements? Oh, every resume book that you look at, certainly any that I've contributed to or written, has samples with tons of resumes in there. So you can look at them and look at how they've written the achievements. Now, where you come up with the numbers, that's on you. And sometimes you need to ask yourself a lot of questions like, I know efficiency got better. Let me think about that for a minute. It used to take us X number of days or hours or months to do this. And once we got all these fully implemented, it took us only X number of hours. And then you can do the math and figure out what that savings would be. And once again, you've figured it out, rough estimates. We don't have to have proof, but you want to be confident and comfortable in talking about those specifics. Sometimes you can even use, instead of percentage, you can say it went from an average of 3 weeks to 3 days or whatever the difference was. So you'll have to ask yourself questions about what you did, what the problem was, and how you solved it. Okay, and problem number 6, our final problem: dense text, poor readability. Now, I have heard, and I've seen this many places, I don't know how accurate it is, but initial resume review is 6 seconds, which is so discouraging to those of you looking for a job. However, that's the first view. 6 seconds. Have they figured out who are you? How can they help? Where do they fit in my organization? And do they have the skills and experience that I'm looking for? And yes, you can, many times, you should be able to determine that in 6 seconds. At that point, if you're in the yes pile or the maybe pile, they'll go back and read it more carefully and spend a little more time on it to pick out specifics about you. So don't be totally discouraged, but do think about that 6 seconds, because if you don't convey those key items in a quick glance, then that's very easy for you to go into the maybe I'll look at it later if I don't have enough candidates in my yes pile. And that relates to a culture shift in some ways. Nowadays, we don't read dense text anymore. We scan, we're looking for the quick hit of information. And I found that I'm a very avid reader, and I found that about myself as well. It's kind of discouraging that it just we don't have the attention span, I think is what it is, to read in depth, and certainly not the time. And if someone's doing hiring and they're looking at literally hundreds of resumes, they don't have time to spend a lot of attention on your resume in that first glance. So give them what they need initially. And then make sure that it's readable. Here's some ways to improve it. Okay, edit, 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 edit. I spend more time editing a resume than initially writing it, because I want my writing to be tight, lean, and clean. I want it to be crisp and to jump off the page and to be, if I can get a two-liner down to one line with careful editing, I'm going to do that. You might not be as obsessive about it as I am, but I do encourage you to review, edit, and always be thinking, is this essential? Is this relevant? Can I delete it? Can I make this more readable? White space between bullets, paragraph sections. White space is breathing room for the eyes. We can absorb some content, take a breath, move on to the next. And when it all flows together, we don't get that breath, and we do not have the attention span to read in dense text. And the ideal text length, paragraphs 2 to 3 lines. Bullet points 1 to 2 lines. And if yours are longer than that, think about how you can shorten them. And I'm going to give you some ideas for that. Ideal resume length, 1 to 2 pages. There is no law that says your resume must be 1 page, and there is no law that says it must be 2 pages. Write your resume, see how much content you have, determine what's relevant, format, and then decide 1 page or 2. If you're on 3 pages, I would probably encourage you to bring it to 2, unless your third page is an addendum of, I don't know, publications or presentations or something like that. Because most people, even senior executives with 30 or so years of experience, we can present the relevant information on 2 pages. But every case is different. If you're in academia, you're going to be a lot longer. If you have a lot of those extras that are an addendum, then yours can be longer. If you're a new graduate, generally 1 page is good. But if it goes 2 pages and you have to cut off something relevant to make it fit, that would not be the smart thing to do, because no employer is going to say, gosh, I wish I could interview this person, but she had a 2-page resume. I can't do it. That's not realistic. And vice versa the other way, 1 page. So write it, make sure it's relevant, and then format. Choose an attractive font and a readable font size when printed, because at some point the person doing the reviewing will probably print out your resume. They certainly will when they're interviewing, and you want them to be able to read it, not just that they can blow it up on screen. It's how you fit everything on 1 or 2 pages, by shrinking a font size. Break content into easily skimmed bites. Remember, they're skimming that resume in a few seconds, and you want them to pick up important information very, very quickly. And when it's dense, they will not do that. And use formatting tools to call attention to important information. Bold, italics, indents, shading, boxes, color. All of those are completely compatible with your applicant tracking system. There's absolutely no issue with any of that in the modern system. So do not be fooled by people who tell you, oh, you have to have this, you have to use this font, you cannot use any kind of borders or lines or shading or graphics. That's just not true. So don't get fooled by it. Make your resume inviting to read. We do make decisions immediately based on appearance, don't we? In meeting people, in looking at, residences, in looking at art, and in looking at resumes, documents. Make it easy to find key information and be consistent with that, so they can very quickly skim through and figure out where you worked, your career progression, if you have that. If they're looking for education, you don't want to hide your degree in tiny type at the end. You want to make sure that they can read what they're looking for. And bottom line, you want to create a positive first impression so that you get that second date after you've made the first date impression. And the second date will be the opportunity to share more about yourself and to go into more detail about anything that's on your resume. So that will be the end. We're at the questions. And if you have any, I'm happy to answer them. You can connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like to do so.
Louise, I can't tell you what an honor it is to have you as our guest presenter today. You are a rock star in our field.
Thank you.
For all of us career counselors, your book is the standard. All of your resume books through the years, those have been the only ones that I recommend to clients. And I just enjoy going through your latest books and looking at keywords. Several of those are in your slides today, and it gives people ideas of how they can make their resume stronger. Prompt questions such as, what were you hired to do? What are you adept at? And even what are you most proud of? All help make people shine better on their resumes.
Oh, I agree, Caroline. What are you most proud of and what do you love to do? What did you love about that job? Because when we are enthusiastic about something, that comes through in our face, our voice. And when you go to interview and you're talking about things that you love, you'll be a really attractive candidate. Whereas if you have a lot of stuff on there that you did, but you didn't really like doing and it's kind of boring, and how are you going to sell that in an interview? It's just not, it just doesn't come across well. So let your emotions come into what you choose so that you are able to do work that you love.
And I also like the way you addressed how career changers can make their resume less focused on their prior industry. Few of us are going to get through our careers in the first industry we started in. So we all have to be flexible and work on our transferable skills and show how our resume can bring value and how we can bring value to other industries.
I see a couple of questions about early experience. How do you balance leaving early career positions on that are relevant versus making resume longer? Well, this would be a great opportunity for you to go look at some resume books because we all have examples in there of showing how the early experience, yes, it's important, and it may be relevant to what we want to do, but we don't need to go into the same level of detail or even the same way of presenting it, but we want to list it somehow. So we need to find a way to concisely list early career experience on the resume. Sometimes we do it without including dates because we don't want to age ourselves if we're getting up there into the 50 plus category, for example. But there's lots of ways we can include that. So that would be a really good way to look at a good time to look at some resume books and just to get some ideas for your particular experience. Oh, and there's another one. If some of my previous job experience isn't directly related to the position I'm applying for, e.g., applying for an academic or research role with prior experience as a finance executive in a treasury division, would you recommend including an explanation of those job descriptions? Well, you need to think about, are you going to be using that finance expertise? Are you going to be teaching finance? Then you definitely would want to mention your expertise. You also can kind of mine that experience for any time that you gave presentations, any time that you mentored or taught other people in your organization, and focus on those in your bullet points, which will relate to what you might do as a teacher, as an instructor. So think about what does relate, and if it doesn't relate at all, you can just list it with minimum details to show that you were a valued employee for X number of years.
We've had a couple of questions come in about ageism on the resume and how to maybe hide that. Please address that.
Sure. So ageism, once again, if you are, let's say 50 plus, and you're competing with people who are 50 plus, no problem. If you're a senior executive, it's perfectly fine to show that you are 50 plus. If you are competing with people in their 30s, you might be concerned that you'll be viewed as old, right? So what you can do is, if you're listing early career experiences, you can list them without dates and minimally. You can feel free to eliminate things from the early parts of your career if they weren't totally relevant. You can show the last 15 years, let's say. If you do that, don't age yourself by putting the date of your college graduation, because people can do that math. So you're going to have to make a decision on how, what are people picking up from the resume. And in all cases, you want to focus on the more recent and relevant experience, and you want to make sure that you are up to date with technology, that you know what's going on in your industry, that you're not, a doddering old person of 50 plus. You could still have some value in the workplace.
Recommendations on font for the resume, which ones are considered dated? What are the more modern fonts that we should be using?
Well, the one that's dated is Times New Roman. That's just, it looks last century. It's just really old. Others, I think it's a personal choice and you want to choose something that's readable. I am strongly in favor of what are called sans serif types, like the one that you see on the screen here, without the little bit of curly cues at the end of the letters. Times Roman is a serif font. I prefer the sans serif, but that is a personal choice. Neither one is better. Neither one is more readable. Neither one is, some are tighter than others in terms of taking up space. So it is a personal choice. I personally really like the new default Aptos, which is available on in Microsoft. I like that a lot. I use it. I think that's what that is here. I like Calibri. I've used Verdana. I've used I can't even think of any more. Arial, that are sans serif. So choose something you like, and that presents your material in a nice way. But I wouldn't obsess over it. Just don't use Times New Roman because that does look old fashioned.
Oh, well, we so appreciate you. Let's show Louise some love in the chat box today as we're winding down and sharing about upcoming information. Thank you. This has been so extremely helpful. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us, and I have a feeling a few of your books are going to be sold today.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here, so thanks for inviting me. I will say that I'm here because Amy approached me, or we got into conversation at a conference, and you never know what's going to come out of those in-person meetings. So I suggest that you job seekers look for opportunities to meet people in person when you can, because opportunities will more likely come your way from that.
I amen that as well, Louise. Just a reminder, Alumni Career Services are available to anyone that would like to join, even if you have not been to UK or attended college. Amy and I are certified career counselors, career coaches. We help people with all phases of their job search, everything from resume assistance, mock interview prep, job search strategies, career assessments, and all the way to the latter part of careers, helping people with encore careers and semi-retirement. Also want to thank our partner today, Nicole Waite with UK Steps. On the slide is the website for UK Steps. There are lots of jobs. Nicole, do you have any hot jobs right now that you're sourcing for that you may want to briefly tell us about?
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. I actually have 3 jobs that the consultant has shared with me that she's currently recruiting for. I'll put those in the chat. And the all the job posting numbers are listed there. They start with a T, followed by a series of numbers there. Those are the specific postings. If you would like to apply, reach out if you're interested to myself or my coworker, Kirsten McKinney, who is also on LinkedIn, and she will have these, Kirsten or myself will have these jobs posted on LinkedIn on the Job Club webpage. In addition to the jobs that are listed here, let's see, it looks like the department is also currently seeking a few warehouse workers. So if someone's interested in warehouse work in addition to other jobs in academia, feel free to look on our website and apply and reach out. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Nicole.
Mhm.
We want to let you know our next job club will be Tuesday, October 14th. It's Mastering the Interview, Proven Strategies for Career Success, presented by Laura Johnson, another colleague that Amy met at a conference. We're fortunate to be able to bring in content experts from around the country, and you will definitely want to join us next time for Mastering the Interviews, as well as many of our events that we have posted in the chat box. Thank you so much. We wish all of you all the best, and hopefully we'll have some success stories when we return on October the 14th.